I remember a mentor of mine, so I was in my 20s, and I had a guy, at this time I was working for a billion dollar company. I was one of the 4 corporate officers for it. I wasn't an owner. And a guy told me, he goes, if you had it your way, you'd have nobody working for you because nobody can perform at the level you expect.
Mm.
And everything has to be he said, that was a huge lesson for me of like, if I'm expecting perfection out of everybody, I'll burn them out. They'll be gone, right? They can't survive, and I can't do all the work myself. So a big lesson in leadership was, how do I help develop people, not just hold them accountable, right? Because accountability is easy. Developing isn't easy.
Chad Pinter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So our audience, they don't know who you are. So give us a short 60-second, 2-minute rundown of just kind of what you've done in business and who you are.
Yeah, so I grew up in Iowa, which is important in my story, and I've really moved around early in my career. I've done a lot of mergers and acquisitions, so evaluating businesses, buying, selling businesses, and by the time I was 30, I'd lived in 5 different states, owned 6 different homes, and really saw a lot of different types of businesses and was engaged in them. And then ended up moving to California when I was 30. Lived there for 20 years, engaged in a variety of different businesses there. I really have been kind of a serial entrepreneur, both within that business and outside of that. I've had a number of different things. Frankly, I wrote a check when I was 35 years old that I couldn't afford to buy into the business that I'm currently the CEO for, and kind of bet on myself, and really had a lot of great people, great experiences, interact with great teams, and really have kind of launched the business into heights that really didn't even imagine at the time. And so that's kind of a short background. Today, I still run that business. We sold it.
The business is?
The business is Western Milling.
Western Milling.
And we sold that business in 2015 to the employees, but sold it again in 2022. We sold to employees as an ESOP, got to keep the warrants, which means part of the upside, and then sold it again. So we got to monetize it twice. And the second time was 2022. Stayed on as a CEO after the sale, and I've been the CEO since. And outside of that, I've been in other industries. I've been in the food industry. I've been in the pet business. I've been in the wedding industry business, tuxedos, things, a retail store, a wellness center. There's a bunch of different types of businesses that I've been involved in.
What principles apply to every business, regardless of the industry they're in, for growing and scaling?
Yeah, I mean, mindset matters. Mindset is the most important thing that you have, that I have, that any of us have. And I think the 4 elements that are kind of, I would call as tentacles of my outcomes would be fortitude, the desire, the willingness and desire to work through things and not give up. Skill development. Some people, it's important to continue to refine your skills. At every age, keep moving, keep learning, keep growing. It's that mindset. Applying strategy and intellect. There's people who work really hard, but they have no strategy. They don't really proceed, right? So you gotta have a plan. You gotta lay out a plan. You gotta kind of work through it. Plan's gonna change, and that's okay. But you gotta use your mind and energy in a way that's strategic to get to outcomes rather than just the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And the last thing is teamwork. And teamwork can be within your team, but it could also be if you're an individual performer or have your own business, your team is really your customers. It might be a supplier. It might be, some vendor for you. Those are all part of your team. And so those four elements are really the foundation. And to me, it really matters in all areas of life. Those four elements, you need to continue to utilize and think about them inside the mindset, the overall mindset.
That's good. And I want to take a step backwards where you exited your company twice. And if I'm not mistaken, if you're able to, you sold it for, was it 640 million?
620.
620.
Yeah.
It's 20.
620 million.
You had a massive exit, and you guys are, before the podcast started, you guys are doing, you said $1 billion in revenue on a yearly basis.
Yeah, a little over about $1.5 billion.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you touched a little bit on mindset, talk about who's the man that you've had to become in order to run a business at that magnitude.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think definitely early on in my career, I was pushing, and I really focused on outcomes only. I didn't really focus on the wake. Think of a boat, right? The boat's going down. I didn't always focus about the wake behind me. I was more focused on where I was going. And to get to the outcomes of where I did, I had to incorporate the fact that everybody else really, a lot of people in your sphere are trying to help you. They're not actually trying to tear you down or slow you down. They want you to succeed. I kind of say the universe wants you to succeed. The universe doesn't want you to fail.
Yeah.
So the mindset shift was really moving towards what's possible and not just I had to do it. And that would have been a lot of my early years where I had to do it or it wasn't going to happen. And so I really had to transition that. Hey, all these people around me, I genuinely love them and they genuinely love me. I kind of have the frame of mind that we're in it together, and people feel that. So if you have the sense that it's me against you, other people pick that up from you. If you have the sense that, hey, we're going to win this together, they pick that up as well. And so I think that mindset, whether it's a customer, a supplier, employee, whatever it is, that still applies.
So it went from forcing things into will, per se, to letting things come about.
Yeah, knowing timing, right?
And knowing timing.
The divine timing of what's happening and understanding the dynamics and being able to step back a little bit from I got to get this from this spot to that spot. Step back from a little bit and say, okay, what's the best way to do this? And is it the right timing? Do I have the right people? Are they engaged? Because if I was engaged, I figured everybody would come with me early on in my career. And over time, I learned that, hey, by them being engaged, the outcomes are a lot easier to achieve.
The timing aspect is one thing a lot of people don't think about, because the truth is you can make the right decision at the wrong time and it can be the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So letting things come into place, and that's something that I've learned as I'm 26, so I'm still young, but as I've matured a little bit throughout the years, I was much more, I would say, headstrong, and I'm still very headstrong, but I would just try to force things into place and will things into existence versus just coming to the understanding that things will come into place, and if it's meant to be, it'll meant to be.
Yeah, and you have to keep working, right? You have to keep pushing.
Yeah.
But it's not, there's a spot where you're like, my willpower, either I'm going to spend all my energy trying to overcome this, or I'm going to recognize the timing's not right. I should be doing this today rather than that. And sometimes it's recognizing other people's energy. Sometimes it's recognizing your own energy and knowing, geez, they're not in the spot. I'm just going to be forcing it, and it's going to put a wear on the other group of people, and it's going to wear me out as well. I need to use my energy and time in a way that's the most efficient. In reading the room and reading the other people in your orbit, so to speak, or your sphere, that could be your employees, could be your customers, knowing, hey, it's Saturday night. They don't want to be talking about this. They want to be enjoying a ball game, or they want to be with, having fun. This isn't their moment. So I'm not going to push them in that moment. I'm going to wait till 10 a.m. on a Monday, or I'm going to wait till 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, because those are good times maybe.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a tactical example of that, or something that you tried to will into existence versus kind of letting it or approaching it at the right time?
Yeah, selling the company would be one of them.
Mm.
So worked on the sale for about 3 years, almost 3 years, and went through COVID. So I had a sale almost done March 13th, 2020. The sale due diligence, all the, reviewing of all the information, that was the last day of the due diligence. That's also the day that kind of the world shut down from COVID, right?
Yeah.
And so we got to the end and it was like, the sale's not going to happen because the world shut down. There was a European buyer coming in to buy the company in America and they got spooked. So went through the process, kind of delayed it, paused it, went through it a couple times. We had another sale that I thought was going to go through in the fall of 21. And it was a good value, not anywhere near the value we ended up selling at, but it was a good value. And I remember saying, geez, this looks like it's going to fall off the tracks. And I was a bit disappointed about it. But then it's like, okay, what's the right timing? How is this supposed to flow? And what happened then? So that fell out in December. At the end of January, I'd gotten called. I said, "Hey, I'm interested. There's an interested buyer, and they wanted to close. And it fell into place like without us soliciting them. They came in, and the deal closed, and it was probably 70% higher than the previous offer. So
Oh, wow.
significantly, different. Now they bought a little different portion of the business. There was some additional pieces, but all in all, it was a much more favorable, valuation. And so that was a little bit of the, hey, don't force it, because I could have, the previous buyer that was on the hook, I could have tried to push it down the road
Mm-hmm.
and say, we're going to close. We need to close. But it's like, no, let's just back off, see where it goes. And ultimately, it worked out better.
Mm.
So not trying to, and sometimes you, like in a sale, you might have it where you think you're ready to close and they're kind of waffling on the hook. Sometimes you need to let it walk away and come back. And sometimes, no, you got to close. So it's that define understanding, what is it right in this moment? Is it close it, or is it, let's give a pause because the next close is going to be, you can reclose it later.
Yeah, understood. Throughout the years you've been managing people, what are some leadership principles that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, the biggest thing, I remember a mentor of mine. So I was in my 20s, and I had a guy. At this time I was working for a billion-dollar company. I was one of the 4 corporate officers for it. I wasn't an owner, and a guy told me, he goes, if you had it your way, you'd have nobody working for you because nobody can perform at the level you expect.
Mm.
And everything has to be he said, that was a huge lesson for me of like, if I'm expecting perfection out of everybody, I'll burn them out. They'll be gone, right? They can't survive, and I can't do all the work myself. So a big lesson in leadership was, how do I help develop people, not just hold them accountable, right? Because accountability is easy. Developing isn't easy.
Yeah.
People need to want to develop on their own, but you also got to give them time and chances to fail, because accountability or failure comes in development, right? At times, it's like, how do you minimize that? But so the big thing for me is, I'm not a micromanager. I used to be earlier in my career, and I learned that good people don't like to be micromanaged. You got to give them the pathway, you got to give them the outcomes, and let them go, and then step in and help them fine tune things. But I act much more as a mentor, and there's still accountability, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's much more, hey, how can I help you? This is what I see, or what are you struggling with? So I start more with, what do you need? A little less of, here's what I need.
Yeah.
Because they naturally, as a boss, people who work for you naturally want to do well for you, because they know that's how they get paid. That's how they get, raises, promotions, whatever it might be. So that's normal. That's natural. So give your employees kind of the microphone, give them the opportunity to speak and be clear what they want, what they need. And then you align that with the business needs to refine it. But if you don't give the employee their say, they eventually kind of either trail off or go do something different.
Yeah.
So
Talk to us, because with us being a sales organization and everybody being 1099, and one of the things that we've really focused on the past few months, and we're going to continue to double down on over the coming months, is leadership development and developing other leaders.
Yep.
And so, what are some leadership tactics you would give somebody? I'll give you a specific example of maybe not necessarily just a sales rep or an employee or an individual producer, but somebody that's a developing leader, where you're giving them enough support and love to give them everything you need without making them self-dependent on you, or you being the bottleneck of your organization, and allowing and teaching and enabling them to
Yeah.
become self-sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is, the owner, CEO, a lot of it is you're setting the example, right? So how do you develop the system? So if you're thinking of the people leading the sales, the 1099 salespeople, what's your system? Because the systems scale, right? People have a hard time scaling, systems don't. If you set up the right system, you can scale a business.
Your organization is only as strong as the systems.
It's a system, and then you put the right people in the right roles. So I do a lot of personality review or intention profiling of people. You get the right people in the right roles, they're going to do great. You get the right people in the wrong roles, they might be really good people and good performers, but they're in the wrong spot. So evaluating that, and then having the system to know, hey, this is effective. And it might be, I think it's important to know the guideposts for the system, but not the absolutes. People aren't scripts, they're human, right? So you need to give them the 3 or 4 elements of these are the things you really need to do. How you do it may evolve and may be tweaked, but these are critical. You cannot miss these things. And then you're measuring the performance against that. And that system of knowing the guideposts that are critical and then having the measurement around it, those 2 elements are the important of the system and getting the right people. So if you take somebody who's really introverted and you put them in a role where they need to be extroverted, they're going to be stressed all day. Or they're going to be completely worn out. You take somebody who needs detail and they're super informal and very creative and don't like detail, but that role needs it, you're going to have a problem. They're going to ultimately have a disconnect. So a lot around personality profiling to understand, hey, do I have the right person doing the right things? A lot of times, most people want to do a great job on whatever they do. Most people are like, hey, I do want to perform. And so it's really getting them in the right role that they can perform. And for the ones that, it's either the wrong role or they really can't perform, then you got to look for what's the next step for them.
That's good. What are the character traits that makes you a great leader?
I think there's a few things. One is listening, whether that's listening to the market, listening to your customer, listening to the employee, listening to the supplier, right? There's a lot of information out there. So you got to be able to take information in, and you get a lot more information when you're listening than when you're talking.
Yeah.
And you can read stuff and it'll give you information. That's helpful. That's important. But also you get the nuanced perspective from the people that are, again, all the other people, the roles that I just mentioned. They all have perspective that's healthy. You don't always have time to listen to it all, but again, listening is one.
Being an active listener. Okay.
Active listener. You have to be strategic with time. And so a lot of times what happens, what I see people do is they as a business changes or their role changes, they don't like, well, I was really good at this and I used this and this is how I became good. And so they want to keep doing that. But as your leadership becomes bigger and bigger in your scope, you have to evolve how you lead. And so it could be a little less hands-on, a little more system review, like what's happening. I need to be able to get my reports. And enabling your people, you're developing them with skills. You're holding them accountable. And I'll say that accountability can be a harsh word. I don't mean that in this sense. I mean it as, hey, I got to help you when you're off track. I need to be able to tell you you're off track and then help you reframe it. And then, so active listening, strategic thinking about your time, how you engage your time. And then, accountability with your team, system accountability in a kind way, like you're reframing, you're redirecting. those are, and then evaluating talent. I mean, I'll use, I live in Bloomington, Indiana. I think you know that.
Yeah.
Indiana Hoosiers just won the national championship in college football.
Hmm.
Had the losingest record in the history of college football, most Division One losses ever.
Really?
And they turned the team around in 2 years with a new coach. But his primary skill, he'll tell you, is system and evaluating people. So nobody goes to Indiana Hoosier football without talking to him. A lot of colleges don't run
Oh.
that way. The position coaches make the decisions. At Indiana, the head coach makes the decision. He wants to talk to every person because it's all about mindset. And so
Mm.
evaluating talent is a critical thing. So what happens with talent, it could be, oh, I really like that person, or they've been in this, they've done this for a long time. So as a leader, you can get you kind of get you fall in love with people, which is a human approach, right? It's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
But to be true to the business, you got to fall in love with the person, get them in the right role, or make sure that they don't block what the progress is, right? And so I think that that's a really important element, and that some managers miss.
Mm. I'd be curious with the Indiana head coach. I wonder if he was only evaluating talent or he was also going out and acquiring talent. Because you look at what are some of the most high leverage tasks leaders can be doing? And for the CEO of any company, a big piece of that is just acquiring quality talent.
Yeah.
You look at Steve Jobs with the Coca-Cola. He was selling Coca-Cola. What was
Yeah.
his name? He recruited was it Steve Wozniak?
I know that name. Yeah,
Yeah, so because I believe it was Steve Wozniak. But the famous quote of what Steve Jobs said to him was, "Well, do you want to be selling sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to change the world?"
Yeah.
And so, I'd be curious if he was also recruiting high level talent, because that's another trait of not necessarily a trait, but a very high leverage tasks successful leaders spend a good amount of their time doing.
Yeah, I think
into their organization.
that the answer is absolutely yes. And when you get your system built, because if you get your system built with the right people, you can scale it. So the Indiana coach, using that as an example, he was a recruiting coordinator at Alabama under Nick Saban. That's where one of his stops. So he was evaluating talent for Alabama. Then he went to Division II, no-name schools, and was head coach. And he took his coaches with him from Division II to lower Division I to Indiana. So the coaches all moved with him. So they got their system down. He knew his people knew what he wanted, right? So he built the framework. His team knew what was needed. They just replicated it. Every move they made, they replicated it, and they scaled it up to be the first 16-0 Division I national champion in the history of college football this last year.
Mm.
And he has guys on his staff that 4 years ago were making less than 100,000 that are now making 3 million because they just kept stepping up to the level, right? That's the scalability of the system.
Mm.
They scale it all the way to the top.
That's good. That's good. I'd be curious. You talk about personality traits, and so as I'm asking these questions, I'm thinking in my head, what does our audience want to hear? But I want to ask a personal question of advice for myself, because when I got into this, any leader has to wear a lot of hats, and it's interesting because I see a lot of leaders with a lot of different personalities, but my mindset and my thought track has never been, all right, well, what personality? It's like I've just done whatever I need to do to survive and grow. And I come in and I was an individual producer, then I was a leader, and there's a lot of things I've had to change about myself or ways I've had to develop.
Yep.
So how much of being a leader do you think is personality versus personal development?
Well, it's absolutely both, because there's a lot of different ways to lead. And so it's really what's your sweet spot. So like with Steve Jobs, you brought him up earlier.
Yeah.
People
hated
was a
him.
creative genius and
Yeah.
a complete asshole by anybody, anybody who would talk knew him. That's kind of what they would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not a nice guy. And he expected at 2 a.m. you'd pick up the phone, and if you had a question, you're answering. So, but that's not everybody's style, right? You've got like with Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, they have their own approach, right? And they're not the same as Steve Jobs. You could pick on, I mean, we can go through different names. Richard Branson. So, my interaction with Richard, he's very hands off. He is not, he's the rah rah guy. Richard is very supportive and energetic and outgoing, which is very, in a lot of ways, very different than a Steve Jobs persona.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really recognizing the ability to recognize who you are and lead with your own style, and then surround yourself with people that complement your style. So a lot of times when people, oh, I really like that person, so I interview them, I really connect to them, which is helpful in a team environment. But if you end up with a lot of clones or a lot of people that have the same personality profile, you all see the same things and you all miss the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're developing the team, I mean, knowing that you need to develop yourself and what your true sense, your true nature, because the more stuff you're doing with yourself that is out of sync with who you really are, the more you're going to struggle with it over time. It's going to waste time. But finding people that have complementary strengths and personality. So if you're somebody, again, that doesn't really like a lot of detail, you need somebody next to you that's got a lot of detail and can feed it to you.
Oh yeah.
And knows how to, the appropriate level to give you. Doesn't, because if somebody gave you all the detail they had and you don't like it, you'd be like, you're wasting my time. Like, you get anxious, you're going to be really kind of tight. You want them to know, hey, these are things that are really important. And the stuff below that I don't really need, but I want you to tell me the story of the stuff that's important. But I know you have the detail below it. If I ask a question, you can dig in. But I'm not going to naturally sit at that level, right? So knowing that, again, that's where the team concept or the development of what's around you is really important to get the right personality types and the blend. So I would say, I don't need people to think like me. I'm already me. I need people that think their own way, that think counterintuitive to how I think. Because if I can refine, it's like going into you think about going into a war or battle. I know my strategy, but I want to know I want to know the competitor's strategy.
Yes.
And what are the holes in it?
Yes.
What are the things that could blow up my strategy? If I just think my strategy is going to win, I'm going to get blindsided.
Yeah.
I need the counterintuitive or the counteraction thoughts.
And do you need people that constructively challenge you?
Yes.
And so that's a really good way to put it, because what I'm hearing is not only being able to grow and adapt, but just as importantly, if not more importantly, having the right level of discernment in order to understand your weak points and then recruit talent to your executive team for everyone that are not similar to you,
Yeah.
where everyone capitalizes off of each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and performers want to contribute.
Yeah.
Right. So when you naturally, if they're aligned with you, they don't feel like they're contributing. If they're fully aligned, like I think the exact same way, it's easier to execute something, but you don't always get the movement to the right direction if something's evolving, because you're both so aligned on a singular path. If there's a market evolving, you need those other thought processes and the perspectives, because that'll help you grow the business. So one thing is you're scaling in the channel you're in. Now, if I want to scale in channels that are adjacent or complement, I need the different perspective taking, because people bring that with different personalities. Some people are going to be really steady, slow, methodical, and that I'm super not. I'm much more. I want to go, but I know the steady, methodical people help bring support, and they think of the sustainability of it as opposed to how do I get into it and get going. So they think, oh, let's build it. Here's how we build it the right way within that. So using, at times that could be a little bit of a little bit of a friction point, but I know it's a healthy friction point. So tolerating healthy friction is really important.
I like that. What are the copy and paste? What's the copy and paste blueprint in systems that every company needs in order to scale?
I mean, I think the system's a little different. The key is understanding your business and knowing the 3 or 4 things that have the biggest impact. Defining those 3 or 4 things, and then measuring them over and over ruthlessly. Because if you get those 3 or 4 things right, your business is going to keep growing. But what happens is some people go, I need to do these 22 things. You can't, it's hard to be really good at 22 things. It's hard to keep your eye on 22 things. Define the 3 or 4, know what they are, measure them, measure them, measure them, measure them, and keep refining. Because the way I'll say it, the way I like to say it is, you always have to, as a leader, you have to have an intuitive sense of what your business is.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to have a factual sense. So people that only have an intuitive sense but don't really pay attention to the metrics or the numbers, that's your dreamer, which is good. You need dreamers. The people that only have, and I say their heads in the clouds, that's how I describe it. People that have all the data but don't really have an intuitive sense, don't really, have a vision, or they just focus on the data. That's kind of like having your head in the sand, because you don't really see the world that's going on. You just see the numbers. You see what's right in front of you. And what I say is, you always need the two. You need the numbers and the intuition to refine each other continually. I think this is happening. Is that what the numbers are saying? Yes. Or no. Well, no, I'm off. Why am I off? Something's changed. But if you don't have them both, you have no way to kind of check against each other. If you're only looking at the numbers, you may go, "Oh, this is happening," but you don't really have a sense of what's happening with competition, with customers, with suppliers, if you're only looking at numbers. So again, those two refine each other, and they're both critical. So get down 3 or 4 things that drive the business, ruthlessly define them, and measure them, and then keep tweaking. But keep the intuitive sense and refine data.
That's good. You've got this mature masculinity frame that you were breaking down before this podcast. So break down what that is with our audience.
Okay, so there's 7 levels to it.
Okay.
And the levels are from immature to kind of maturity, right? So think of it as 7 levels. And as I get into it, I'll just say there's no right or wrong level. It's only about intentionality. So my view is, be where you want to be, choose to be there, and be there intentionally. So the 7 levels, it starts with the boy. So the boy is really around instant gratification. They don't really care how they impact other people. They just want it now. I want what I want, and I want it now. I don't care what consequences there are to doing it. Second level is the performer. So the performer is it's the image. It's, I want to look good. I want to sound good. I want everybody to look at me and go, "Wow, you're great." But the reality with the performers, they're not actually putting the work in. They just want to say the right things and look the right way. And so
there's a lot of those people on social media now.
There's a lot of
I always say, are you playing business or are you doing business?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are playing business and they have the show. Like, they drive the nice car, they wear the suit, but they're not actually in the business, in the trenches.
Exactly. And social media provides that outlet, right?
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, you didn't have that same type of outlet.
Yeah.
So that's a performer. The next level is the fighter. So the fighter is really kind of a zero-sum mentality. It's either you or me. You're going to win. If I win, you're going to lose. If you win, I'm going to lose. It's kind of if it's going to be done, I got to do it. So I have to fight for everything. Nobody gives me anything. Nobody's helping me. I've got to go do it. It's really kind of a self-driven, ego-driven, scarcity mindset. But at the fighter level, the person's actually doing something, right? They're actually trying to create something or get something, or there's action. So there is an element of step up there of you're doing something. The next level is the builder. And so the builder is recognizing, hey, to do something, to build something sustainable, I do need people, and people are going to help me, and I help them. And but it's a builder is focused on what they're building. So there's still an element of ego, just like the previous 2 levels. But the builder knows, hey, there's other people around here that are going to help, and we can build it together. But I'm still kind of driving as a builder.
Yeah.
And so there is an outcome, kind of a legacy that can come with that, right? I'm building a legacy because you're thinking about more than just in the moment. The next one is the wise warrior, and the wise warrior is able to step back. They still have a building element. They step back from it, and they can allocate resource, time, and energy to multiple aspects. So they may not be just building one thing. They may have a lot of things going on, but they're a little bit more of again, they have knowledge of how best to allocate time and energy in a way that multiple things can get done rather than just, I'm building this one thing. And it still has ego in that, because the warrior still likes to see accomplishment. And it's just knowing how, when I'm going to shoot my arrow, I'm going to be very precise about it. I'm not out there just slinging arrows at everything.
Mm.
Um, a young warrior might do that because they're just trying to find the ground.
Yeah.
A wise warrior is like, nope, I know how to get these things done, and I know how to be more targeted with my energy to make
Mm.
sure they get accomplished. You still need people and interact with people, and people become more and more important as you move up the levels. The next level is the mentor, and the mentor is where the ego starts to take a back seat. If you want to be kind of the person on front and stage, that's not the mentor. The mentor is the one that's kind of more behind the scenes, wanting to help people become wise warriors, help them become builders, help them get to the fighter or whatever level that person wants. They're helping kind of show the way, by helping others. And then the last one is the sage. And the sage is really, it's when kind of everything falls into oneness. I'm here because I am, and I'm enough because I'm here. And there is no, I don't need to fulfill my ego. I recognize that we're all connected. And what I do when I bring good energy, when I bring good positivity, it has an impact on everybody around me. And I
Mm.
don't have to get anything out of it. I don't need to do anything different. I just need to show up. And that has an effect on people when I'm doing it right. And so those are really the 7 levels. I told you before that we got on, live, or got on video, that I sit most of the time, I'm kind of a builder, wise warrior, and mentor. Those are my 3 levels and I tend to bounce between them depending on what I'm doing. One thing that's important to note is, when you're at a level, it's easier to see the levels below you. It's not always easier to see the levels above you. So if I'm a fighter, the concept of a wise warrior or the builder may be a little bit foreign, because it's like,
Mm.
I'm so in my element, I can't even get out of it. Or
Sure.
if I'm a boy, what do you mean I got to be a wise warrior? I just want to. I don't. I don't care. I don't care what I destroy. I'm just having fun. Like,
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Yeah.
They can't even relate. But as you move to a level, you can see the level below and go, oh, now I understand. So, but those are the 7 levels, and I think it's intentionality. What level do you want to be, and then creating the roadmap to get there.
Can you name specific examples of famous entrepreneurs that we all know of, and give an assessment on your opinion of what level they're at?
Yeah. So you give me a name. How about we do
Elon
this?
Musk.
Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is, definitely has an ego. So I'm going to walk through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely has an ego. Uses people. He's got a lot of people. He doesn't see people. My view is he doesn't see people as necessarily human, right? He sees them as spots. Like, but he does a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of different elements. So there's parts of Elon, and we all have this, so I want to be careful. My evaluation would be, there's parts of Elon's boy, because I don't think, when it comes to how he treats people that aren't really close to him, I think he sees people as a number,
Mm.
or a means to an outcome. He's a wise warrior because he's built things, right? He recognizes there's people, and it takes a lot of people, and it takes functionality. And so I think you know, you have the stories of him sleeping in the manufacturing warehouses, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would sleep at his desk. He'll do whatever it takes to get it done. And that might be the fighter, right? So you can see him at different levels. I'd probably place him mostly at those 3, because I don't think he's not a performer. He gets stuff done, right? He says it, he does it. So it doesn't make him a performer. Um, he was probably a builder at one time, but as he started branching off other companies, it went from being a builder to being a wise warrior, because now he's allocating time and energy across a continuum. So that would be my evaluation of Elon, not knowing him.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah. Yeah, there's some similarities there. I think
Both have little boy
he
have boy
definitely has little boy
tendencies.
tendencies because of what he does with on social media, right?
Yeah.
He fires things off, And I don't think he cares about the consequences, what he's saying to people.
Mm.
He might, but I think he's using it for his own benefit, right? But he fires things off pretty regularly. And so that's a boy. He's not thinking about how he's impacting people or he might be hurting people. He's more worried about his own outcome. Um, he definitely knows how to build things. I mean, I think he's got a little bit of performer in him where, you look back earlier, it's definitely earlier in his career, he presented himself to have more than he really had. He leveraged things to get to where he was. So a lot of debt, a lot of other people's resources to present that he was the guy. So he's got a lot of ego. Um, so I can definitely see a performer in Trump that maybe Musk doesn't have the same quiet type of performer.
Mm.
But he's very strategic. No, Trump's very strategic. And so he's got some elements of wise warrior. He's not a mentor. He really cares about himself. And he's not going to take a backseat to anybody. So, if you're willing to take a back seat to advise, and they're not, they haven't hit the mentor or sage level. So yeah, he's definitely got boy, he's definitely got performer, um, and he's got wise warrior. I would imagine he probably had builder and fighter earlier in his life, because those are the kind of the drive.
Yeah. Warren Buffett.
Wow, that was a good one. Warren is definitely a mentor or sage. Um, I've been at his annual shareholder meeting a few times. And just the way he built his businesses, he's only front and center because he was around so long, right? He led the business for so long. But he's not seeking the spotlight. He lived in the same house for like 70 years, right? As his wealth climbed, he didn't move. He had the same bridge partners.
Same house, same car, and ate at McDonald's every morning.
Yep, and had the same bridge partners, right? People that he played cards with.
Charlie Munger.
Yep, and that was his. So he in the way he manages the businesses, or did, he's retired now, but the way he managed the businesses was he got the CEOs in place and let them run the business. If you look back 40 years ago, the number of people in the corporate office of Berkshire Hathaway to today is like two different. It went from like 24 to 26 or something like that. My numbers might be a little bit off, but as the business has scaled, they didn't scale the corporation. They let the businesses run the businesses, and Warren was there to help, support them and encourage them and help them. But he really was a backseat. So I'd say he's definitely a wise warrior, a mentor, and a sage.
Last one, and since you know him personally, Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard's a fun guy. I mean, he doesn't believe there is no such thing as risk reward.
Richard Branson, and again, you know him better than I do because I've met him in person. But like, he's the one guy where he's a billionaire and is like, he actually lives a dope life.
Oh yeah.
Elon Musk, ton of respect for him, but I don't think nobody would want to be Elon. He doesn't have a good quality of life. Donald Trump, I mean, he's at war. It is war 24/7 for Trump, and that's just how he thrives. But Richard Branson's one of those guys where he's made a lot of money, but he also knows how to have fun in life.
Yeah, when I met him, he had just come out of space. So the first commercial flight to go into space, into orbit. And so this would have been the summer of 21. And he had just left there, maybe it was like a week or two earlier. And yeah, he's a super fun guy. He doesn't, like, if you want to talk to him about anything negative or risk, he's like, he doesn't even want to hear it. He wants all positive all the time.
Really?
The guy has had like 9 lives. Like the things he's done, he jumped out of a plane, lost his parachute. So literally pulled the wrong cord and lost his parachute and survived it because another guy dove down to him and they hung on to each other. And he went 300 miles an hour in the desert and crashed and, had broke a bunch of bones, should have died. I mean, he's had all these stories.
Yeah.
But the thing about Richard is he continually believes in himself and the people around him. And he's very optimistic. So he's definitely a wise warrior, and he's a mentor. He doesn't get caught up. He likes to play like a boy, but and that part of the boy is good, right? The positive side of boy is they're creative and they're playful and they're energetic. The shadow side is they're, can be destructive and only worried about themselves and consequences don't matter. Richard's got the positive side of the boy where he's very playful. And he's definitely a wise warrior in how he allocates his time and energy. And he, I don't know if I wonder. I didn't know Richard Allison when he was young, but I wonder if he was ever really a fighter. I feel like he was always a builder because of his energetic perspective is positive, and he's very. The fighter doesn't have that. The fighter is like intense, and I think Richard. I think his big break was when he signed Janet Jackson to his song label, Virgin Records, and that was kind of his big break. And I just think my guess is he's always been kind of a positive guy. So more wise warrior, mentor, because he does like to help people and support causes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of a boy in him.
That's so interesting because I've had the opportunity of meeting a fairly decent amount of successful people in my life, and it's interesting because you look at the person that has a net worth of 10 million is a completely different person, a completely different skill set of having a net worth of 100 million. And I'd say somebody that's 100 million, they're very motivated and they're a very hard worker. But 100 million to a billion is a whole nother jump. And the way I see billionaires is if you're a billionaire, you're a warlord. Like the amount of mental fortitude, grit, it's like they stopped caring about money a long time ago. It's more power, status, fame, whatever is their driving factor. And Richard Branson, obviously I haven't met him, but he's the only person that I've seen that has acquired that level of success that doesn't necessarily, from my perspective, have warlord tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's purpose, right? So what's your purpose?
Yeah.
So what's Elon's purpose? What's Trump's purpose? What's Richard's purpose?
Yeah.
And their purpose motivates them to whatever they do. And so, like, if my purpose is, if Elon is, I'm changing the world, or I have this, my technology and my information is going to change the world, like Steve Jobs would be. Trump might be, it's really about power, right? It's really, I want all this power. And Richard is more about, I want to have fun, and I want other people to have fun, and I want to create stuff, and I want to have an impact, right? And it doesn't have to be an impact just for him; it's impact for others. And so I think everybody's got, once you get to the level, it's no longer about the money, like you said, it's about the purpose. What am I motivated by? What do I enjoy doing? And I'm going to keep doing those. So Trump does what he does. He's 80 years old. He doesn't need to be the president, but I think he loves the power of it, would be my guess. And Elon doesn't need the money.
And not only the power, I think he loves the fight.
He loves the fight. He loves the attention, right? He loves to be the center of attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody in his orbit that's going to get more attention than him. He goes to his wife's launching, and at her launching of her documentary, he announces who the next Fed chair is going to be. Right, so this is her moment. This is her big thing, and people have been speculating who the next Fed chair is going to be for a while, and so he lets it out that night rather than letting it just be, hey, this is all about you. This is your night. Let's celebrate you. He makes it about him at some level, right? By releasing that information. So that attention, that power, that focus on me, I think is really important to him.
It's interesting. Let me ask you this in closing. What are some what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs for optimizing long-term success without facing burnout?
Without what?
Without facing burnout.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a lot of it is, when you're a young entrepreneur, it's really go time. You got to go, because a lot of his experiences and learning what works and what doesn't work, right? There can be failure, that's part of it. Young entrepreneur, the difference between what I'll say, a business person and an entrepreneur, a business person will shut down if things don't work. An entrepreneur won't. Entrepreneur keeps moving and navigating to where the opportunity is. They might start with one intention, but if that's not working, they'll navigate quickly to the thing that does work. So I think the big thing is listening to your body. If you don't want to create burnout, because we all get to those points where it's like, I think we all know this point at some level intuitively. It's like, I'm actually not helping right now by pushing through. I'm hurting myself. And you need perseverance, you need fortitude, you need to fight through things. That's life. But there's spots where it's like you're actually doing yourself harm. So listen to your body. When your body is telling you, you know, I'm not thinking clearly, I'm rushing to judgment, I'm making errors. Give yourself, even if it's a 15-minute pause, go lay down, set an alarm, listen to meditation, take a nap for 15 minutes, do something to get yourself shaken up. I have this other thing I call a primal yell that'll actually open up your senses. And so if you're in the middle of, if you're kind of, your energy's low or you're kind of in a glut, you can actually activate your body. A lot of times people get to this state after lunch. Could be, I had lunch, I'm a little bit sluggish, or it could be in the evening. I have a sluggish window. And it's a quick exercise that you got to do it the right way. Because energy, it's a way to activate through energy. But you're taking your hands, you're standing straight up, wide shouldered. You're taking your hands and you're kind of letting out primal grunts. And you keep going until you feel your body build up. And as you feel the build up, and you're just, then all of a sudden you just put your head back and throw your arms down, and you just let out a yell, call a primal yell. And what that does, it flushes your body, oxygenates your body, get body circulation, and it gives you energy. I mean, it's instant energy. And so if you get yourself where you can't shut down, you need a little bit of a change, do that. Otherwise, again, you still have to listen to your body at times and say, I need a pause, because I'm better off taking a break or doing something else creative. Sometimes go do something completely disconnected from what you're doing. Your mind resets, even you may not even sleep, your mind just resets because you're doing something different. Like crazy, do a puzzle, right? Do a crossword, do literally a puzzle on, go shoot some baskets, go do 10 50-meter sprints. Do something to activate the body if you really have to push through. But otherwise, listen to your body is really important.
That's good. I'm going to try that after lunch today. So if you hear me yelling from my office, that's what I'm doing.
Finally yell. Open a window. What you don't want to do, I should have said, you don't want to do it inside of a closed area, because energy, so Heather is a microbiologist who understands the body at the cellular level. And so she's an energy practitioner. So one of the things that she's taught me is energy can't be created or destroyed. It just gets transmuted. So if you do a primal yell in a closed room, or you do it towards somebody, you're letting your stuff out of that person. Or if there's no window, there's no way for the energy to escape. So then you need to open a window, do it outside, open a door, so that you're letting it out and it has energy can flow. Otherwise, it's going to bounce back to you. Another trick.
That's interesting. It would be, you said not a closed room. Before you said not a closed room, I was thinking this would be the perfect room to do it in.
It would be. If you had a little hole, you could open up a little passage to the outside.
Because this was actually, so the people that had this office before, it was a government weapons contractor.
Okay.
And then they use this room for coding. So it's basically like, you can't penetrate this with Wi-Fi, cell signal. It's completely soundproof. I mean, we got all of the guys on the phones out there. Yeah. We're blasting music. You can't hear anything in here. It's completely quiet.
Perfect podcast room.
It worked out. So we're like, as soon as we toured this office, we're like, that's going to be the pod studio.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chad, this has been a phenomenal conversation. So I could keep going for another 2 hours, but we're out of time. But thank you for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Glad to be here and look forward to continue the dialogue.
Absolutely. For those because you got a book coming out, for those that want to learn more about you or follow you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I really have LinkedIn, Chad Pinter, LinkedIn. My book is going to be Left Brain Sniper. So it's a book series. This is the first one, Left Brain Sniper, Mature Masculinity. I'm in the final editing. I've already written it. We're going through final edits. It should be launched in April is the most likely time frame. So look for that book. It'll be on Amazon. It'll get launched on Amazon to start. And we'll have the audio book and the printed version.
Awesome. Well, in closing, if you guys took value from this podcast, like, subscribe, and share with somebody else that would take value. God bless.